So with our mobile application or our website application. So I think ease integration, ease explanation will be very straightforward so that you can able to understand it very well. So I will welcome Rizwan from the audience. Please open up your mic and take up the session to introduce yourself. Then you can start up the session way forward.
Oh yeah, thanks Lawrence for that introduction. So before I get started, I actually want to share that one, you'll forgive me for my my voice right now because I'm having kind of a flu. So I hope you guys can hear me well as I speak. So you can just confirm from the audience.
Uko
Yeah,
sawa
your
bana.
session is okay. Your sound is okay.
Okay, so thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
So as you have been told, I'm Rizwan. I'm a full stack developer, mostly JavaScript. I do everything concerning JavaScript. That is, I do React for the front end and Node.js for the back end. I can also go through some PHP code and some bit of Python, although not that to an advanced level, but I can say that I'm quite comfortable with JavaScript, that is React and Node. So I'm excited today to take you through the implementation of Daraja. So I'm actually amazed with the numbers that are coming in, 66 viewers at this moment. It's not something small, so I really appreciate everybody for joining in. So I hope to make this session very, very interactive. So in case you'll be having any question at the middle of the session, just feel free to raise your hand and the moderator will give you time. So you can interrupt at any moment because I believe that if you have a question at that moment, it would be better if that thing will be solved at the moment so that we can go on instead of having a session of Q&A at the end of the session. Maybe some of the questions would have dissolved and some of the questions that you have been wanting to be answered might still remain unanswered. So Daraja is a service that has been offered by Safaricom, that is an M-PESA. So it allows you to integrate payment systems to your websites. So personally, as a self-taught developer, if I share a little bit of my story on how I got into tech, that is back in 2020 during the COVID time. So I really didn't know that we have jobs in tech. So the only thing that made me enter or get into tech is I knew that I can build something that can later maybe bring some income to me. So knowing that I was learning how to build stuff so that I can one time build something that will be used by the public and I will be gaining financially from it. So escaping M-PESA integrations was inevitable, if I can say, because right from my very first project, I just had to accept payments because it was kind of an e-commerce system. So building it in Kenya, there's no way that you can avoid M-PESA. So right from 2021, I've been interacting with the API. You'll join me admitting that the documentation that is provided by the Daraja team is great, only that we have some pieces that are kind of scattered. So joining them together is kind of a tussle to many of us. So over the years, I've gained some experience with the API. I've shared some talks back here in Mombasa about the same, and I'm glad that today I'll be sharing the same with you guys. And at the end of the session, I hope that you will have benefited from whatever I'll be sharing. So not taking much of your time, not a fan of slides, but I've prepared some 7 slides that are going to guide us through the whole session. At least we have a reference point of what we shall be discussing so that at the end of the session, you can go back and try to refer which point was not clear and you reach out to the guys that might have any help to you. So allow me to share my screen so that I can present the slides and we get started with it. You can just confirm if it's visible.
Yeah, the slide is visible.
Yeah, sure, thanks. So Daraja 2.0, the logo that you see up there is the official logo for the documentation. When you go to their documentation, you'll find the logo there. So Daraja is kind of a word.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
bridge.
Rizwan.
Yep. Yes, hello? Yes, Lawrence, can you hear
Before
me?
you go on, I got Andrew. Your hand already. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. You were saying something.
Andrew raised his hand before you continue.
Oh, yeah, yes. Yes, Andrew.
I think he was responding to the question where you asking whether we can see you and we can just move.
Oh, sawa. Yeah, so we shall be discussing on how you can integrate M-PESA online payments to your applications. And if I mean online, I mean automated stuff, because currently everything runs online. So even if so we're just avoiding the manual stuff whereby somebody is now needed to manually go to the SIM toolkit, do everything. And again, you as the person who is receiving the cash is also able to manually verify whether the guys have paid or not. So we are trying to bridge that. So that is why I think they called it Daraja. So we are going to discuss on how we can implement such kind of solutions to make sure that our systems are automated in terms of payments. So today we're going to talk about how we can accept those payments, whether you're using a web application, whether it's a mobile application. It's basically a complete walkthrough of the whole process. So we are going to do a bit of hands-on coding, but that's not much of whatever we shall be doing here. I believe that as a developer, you're not just paid, or rather you're not just a coder, somebody who writes code for a living. Rather, you solve solutions for people. So payments as a solution does not just involve you writing the code. It involves a lot of things, starting from the beginning of it. There's a blank everything. The client has just approached you that I have this and this website, I need this and this integrated. So you have to think through the whole process from the beginning until the end of it all. So that is what we shall be doing here. We're going to think through the whole process of integrating M-PESA. So taking it from the use case whereby you are a developer and a client has approached you that they need M-PESA integrations to their websites. So where are you going to start from? So that is what our talk is all about today. So have a bit of a walkthrough of what we shall discuss throughout the whole session. So have to have a kind of a guide on which steps that we shall be taking. So the first thing is the pay bill and till application. So before you integrate everything, you should have the pay bill that you want to integrate or the till number that you want to integrate. We're going to discuss which one are you going to use, but they are not much that difference. I'm going to show you the differences depending on the use case that you want to use them for. Second thing is the APIs that are available. So with payments, you cannot just wake up and try to. So there's a guy that was asking me last week that how can I transfer money to from my website, so from my pay bill number to my bank directly. And I was like, how can you do that? Because the bank has not provided that, M-PESA has also not provided that. So there is no way that you can do it as at now, maybe if they're going to provide such kind of a thing. So we're going to look at what APIs are available, so what can be possible to be done, what is possible to be done, and what is not possible according to what Daraja has provided for us at the moment. Then we're going to briefly talk about the code walkthrough, how you can arrange yourself, or rather how you can code through the whole process from the beginning of it all. After understanding, or after getting the pay bill, after understanding the APIs that are available, then we're going to walk through the code. Then again, you're also going to talk about some security measures. Remember, you're handling money. So there's some things that is not a matter of it working, but rather making it a bit secure. I know that you can't be 100% secure, but it's good to have a kind of security in your integrations. Then after that, we are going to discuss how to handle offline payments. Then also the business to customer, where you can disburse money to your clients, distributors, and any other customer of your website. Then lastly, we're going to look at some of the common problems, some of the common questions that maybe I might have faced, and you guys also, there may be the common problems that you have been facing when you're integrating these payments. So before I continue, just a caution. I don't work for M-PESA, neither am I an M-PESA agent. So whatever that I'll be sharing here is wholly and solely from my own personal experience. So nobody has sent me to actually talk about anything here. I just felt like sharing the experience. So I believe that we have more experienced guys in the audience. So if in any case I'll be out of topic, or rather if in any case I'll be leaving something out, just feel free to raise your hand and share with the audience. So the reference that we are going to use, so before this, when Lawrence informed me about the session, so I was to write a blog that will be kind of a reference about what we are going to talk about here. So when the session has ended, what are we going to use? Like, you're having a problem somewhere, what documented thing that I'm believing that the session will be recorded, but again, we have people who are like, they need to read something through so that they can understand them. So to write a blog on that, but I feel like the topic is too wide for a blog post. So I decided to write the whole documentation. I'm still on the process of finishing it off, but up to now, I believe that I've covered most of the things that we are going to talk about here. So that will be our main reference point, as well as the official Daraja documentation and any other reference that you guys might provide at the moment. So the reference itself, this is it. So it's on mpesa-docs.devries.xyz. This might not be available at the moment. So I have this one that is hosted on Vercel. So mpesa-docs.vercel.app. So if you can open that, then we are going to go through it together, some of the bits and some of the references that we might need. It also it has some code snippets for PHP, Python, and Node.js. So if in case you fall on any problem, we have my contacts there also. So if in case you're having any problem integrating later, you can just reach out to me. And again, you also have the official Daraja documentation from this portal that is available. So that is developers.safaricom.co.ke. One funny thing about the documentation is I believe you have to create an account, log in to access the documentation at some point. So if you don't have an account there, just quickly, you'll be needed to create an account. Just take some few moments. You might fall on some problems when you're creating the accounts. I don't know really why of late it has been having some problems, but just work around them. That's part of your task as a developer to solve such kind of problems. So that is it. Those are the slides that I'll be having. The last slide is just a slide to reference, or rather to thank all the organizers of this session. So let me just go back to these sessions here. Oh yeah, the reference materials, I've said they're on these links. So let me just open them on here. So the first one is on M-PESA docs.vercel.app. It is. Don't tell me it looks like the Daraja, because I believe it doesn't. It has a lot of differences. One, there's not a logo, just a text. Two, I was very clear, this is a simplified unofficial Daraja documentation. So don't confuse it with the original one. I'm in the process of also changing some of the colors, not to bring that confusion, but these are very different thing. So this is the documentation that we are going to be using alongside the official one, that is developers. So if you can search the Raja, I think it will just pop up there. It is. Yeah, so this is the official one. So for you to access the documentation, it's good to log in, because this one is kind of limited to some stuff. So you are going to sign in here if you don't have an account, but if you have one, you can just log in, then you go to the documentation part. So the pay bill or the till number application. So this is a process that it's not part of your job as a developer to apply for a till or a pay bill. But again, I believe that it's part of the problem that you're solving, because most of the guys that approach you, they just need the service to be done. They don't know how it is going to be done. And you're the person that is supposed to provide a framework of where are we going to start, what you need from them, and this is one of the things that you need from them. So don't just tell them that give me a pay bill. And you can also develop on Sandbox, that is available on Daraja. But again, if you're building for a live application, you're solving a real problem, it's better off to go with the live stuff, because with the Sandbox, sometimes you might face some issues that are not, you can't solve them at the moment because there are issues with Sandbox. Most of the time, the network issues with Sandbox are really overwhelming. So it's good to have a till or a pay bill. You personally as a developer also, that is why I'm sharing this process, because you can decide to integrate everything on your end. Then when the client, or rather when the person that you're integrating for is ready with their credentials, then you can just change them there. So it's good to have your own pay bill or your own till number that you'll be using for your integrations as a developer. But again, if you feel like the process is overwhelming, the process that I'll share here, you can just go with the sandboxing thing, but I wouldn't advise that. Yeah, so the till or pay bill application. So before we go through the whole pay bill application, it's good to understand which one are we using. Are we going to use a pay bill, or are you going to apply for a till? So the application process, some of us, or rather some of the people that I've known, they would go for a till, claiming that the documents that are needed to apply for a till are less than the ones that are used to apply for a pay bill, of which it's true to some point, only if you don't intend to use that till for integrations. So if you go with the requirements for a till and the requirements for a pay bill, you'll find that the requirements for a till are less than the requirements for a pay bill. But again, if at some point you'll need again to integrate M-PESA payments online, then the same requirements that you skipped at the pay bill application will still be needed. So there's no shortcut. You know that both of them, the requirements that are needed are equally similar. So tills can be for individuals, pay bills can also for individuals, that is sole proprietors, people who are running their own business. Because when you go to some blogs and some documentation that are provided for the application process, they will kind of tell you that pay bills are for corporates and companies, whereas till are for individuals, of which, if it comes to integrating to online payments, the moment you have an online system, yeah, the till number is the buy goods. So the moment you have an online system, you're already regarded as a company. So there's no way that you can skip and try to claim that you are an individual applying for something. So if you need to choose, you can choose a pay bill or a till number, but I'll prefer a pay bill because it has a lot of capabilities, including the account number that is not found on the till. with the introduction of the new laws whereby you get the masked phone number. So you can use the account number to identify individual transactions. Because if you use a till for offline payments, you find that there is no that account number stuff that can help you identify each transaction on your end when you receive the transaction. So if you need to apply, you're going to look through the requirements. If you feel like the till requirements fit you better, you can go for it. If you feel like you can get all the pay bill requirements, it's also better. But again, if you are aiming at using the integration for only and only accepting online payments that are initiated from your system, then a till number has equally capabilities as a pay bill. In fact, with an advantage, because your clients won't be charged. With a pay bill, you can also choose your clients not to be charged, but all the charges will be back to you. But for a till number, the clients won't be charged. And that is one of the things that people choose a till number rather than a pay bill. So if you are aiming at using the integration for an online system, only an online system, then go for the till. But if in some point you'll need to scale up and also track some offline payments, then a pay bill will be more appropriate. So the requirements. So I'm very clear here that not to limit yourself with the scalability of your application. That is, if your application grows, then always go for a pay bill, because at some point, if you will need to handle some other stuff, then the pay bill will have some more capabilities rather than the till. So the requirements that you need to apply for a pay bill or a till number to integrate them to your system. I'll be very clear on this, because the moment you own an online system, you are already a company. I don't know your definitions of a company, but you're already a company. So as you apply, just put yourself in the shoes of a company. Companies don't need to be corporates. So you can just be a sole proprietorship company that you own it yourself. So if they ask for any documents that are past that, then you can tell them that I'm the only person that is running the business. So you need an application form as normal. So from this link, you can download it. So if you click the link, it will just take you to that form. It's very straightforward. Just fill in, just read the prompts, and you'll fill in the company name and everything that is needed there. And again, you're going to need you need the tariff guide. So this tariff guide is what will help you. So the differentiation between a till and a pay bill in terms of payments. So like the clients are not charged for the till just because the company is charged for it. There's no shortcut. There's no a way that Safaricom goes losses. No. So they charge the company, and the client is just transacting for free. So you can do the same with the pay bill. So with this tariff guide, there's a place where you select. You can select whether you need to share the cost among you and the client. So anakatwa nusu. Allow me to also use Kiswahili, because that is my language back here at Mombasa. So nikichanganya na Kiswahili, I hope everybody is just well with that. So unaweza amua kuchagua like the client anakatwa nusu na wewe unakatwa nusu. You can decide to take the whole burden and the client transacts for free. Or you can also decide to be nil and pull everything back to the client, achajiwe kila kitu. So yeye ndo akatwe kila kitu huko. That's their problem. So most of the time people choose the mgao tariff, whereby you just split the bills between you and the client. Anakatwa kidogo na wewe unakatwa kidogo. Then we have an account opening form. Just fill this also for formality. Then there's these two here that I'm going to discuss later. So you also need a bank letter or a cancelled check. This looks like a tussle, but I believe in Kenya, opening a bank account takes less than 30 minutes. It costs you nothing, actually. And the moment you create that bank account, you are a client for that bank, and they have a mandate to give you this letter. So just tell them that I need a letter to apply for a Safaricom pay bill. Actually, telling them to apply for a Safaricom pay bill will now bring the problem, because they also have their own pay bills, and they're like, why don't you take just ours? And so just tell them I need a letter that confirms my bank details, and you sign it. Simple as it is. I couldn't share my sample here because I was to mask it some details. I didn't get time to do that. But if you have a problem with how the structure of the letter should be, you can just find me and I'll share such. So for charging these letters, officially it's not supposed to be charged, but the nature of our country, if you need it done quickly, I think they're not supposed to charge you, simple as it is. You need a KRA PIN certificate, and again, shouldn't be a company one, so your own personal one is just okay. Only if you chose sole proprietorship. Kama umechagua kuwa mfanyabiashara wewe peke yako, hauna washirika wengine, don't have any other partners, then you can just provide this, which as a developer I believe that will be appropriate for you. Then you also provide copies of your ID back and front. Then there's one that is missing here, the business registration. So it's not necessarily a company registration, just the business reservation letter that comes from eCitizen when you apply for a business name. It costs something like 950, I think. That's all. 950, you get that business name registration, and it's okay for that. So all the letters that you provide for Safaricom, they should be stamped, and the bank letter should also be signed. So those who are having individual tills, zile tills zenye zina ukilipa na inakupia jina ya mtu, you can't use those to integrate into systems. If you have a bank pay bill, not unless they give you their keys of which they want, you can't also integrate those. But if you want to use them, their services, there's this Lipia Online, the service that I'm building that will assist you to integrate such kind of services, but I'll talk about that in some other time. It's not the session for that. So after gathering all these documents, just scan them together. I believe there's a portal to apply, but the best way to do it is using these emails. Just write an email to mpesabusiness@safaricom.co.ke. Then you can see each and every email that you can find for Safaricom, because you need this thing done fast. So you can see any. So paybill@safaricom.co.ke, lipa na M-PESA@safaricom.co.ke, api.safaricom.co, or any email that belongs to Safaricom. You can just see them, provided they deal with the M-PESA business and the API itself. Maybe you don't know which ticket might be found earlier, because they're using a ticketing system that is kind of, I don't have a right word for that, but you can understand me. So if all the requirements are okay, then your application should be processed within 72 hours. So this habit of people waiting, and they're waiting for nothing. So you sent an email to somebody and it's 2 days now. Then you follow them, you tell them that I've sent an email. They ask you, oh, kumbe ulituma. So they're starting to check. So the whole 2 days you're waiting for nothing. Same to this application. So if after 24 hours there's nothing, there's no response, then just reapply again. So just assume there's an error somewhere. Nobody came across your ticket, so just reapply again. A new ticket will be settled, and you might get the pay bill in less than 24 hours. So after you apply, so you're going to receive an SMS. This is a sample of the SMS. You're going to go through that. Then again, literally when you apply for a pay bill or a till, these agents assume that you're going to use it normally. Ila anabandika kwa duka, mtu anakuja analipa. But if you need them for a pay for a system, they don't know about that. So there's something else that is supposed to be created, the admin account. So if they're both created at the same time, you're going to receive the SMS plus an email. But if you receive just the SMS, of which that is the normal case for many of the applications, then immediately resend this document, just change the email that you are now applying for the admin account creation. So when the admin account is created, you're going to receive this email telling you that your M-PESA account for this pay bill, the business name that will be there has been created. Your username is this and your password is this. So this will assist you a lot to go live on the Daraja portal. So minus this, there's no way that you can go live on that portal. The SMS alone won't be of any help. So after that, I think you're done. You've received the email, and that is the most important thing. After that, we are going now to utilize this portal to go live, to tell Daraja that we are now using this pay bill that you provided for us for some online stuff. So why do we need that portal? Remember, we are dealing with APIs. When I go back here, so if you start learning about APIs, you'll understand how to interact to to interact with these APIs. They provide you an endpoint, then there are some security credentials that are needed, some authentication that you're going to send with the request. So you need these credentials from the portal. So you have to go to the Daraja portal, you create an account. Then at the end of it all, we must get the consumer key, the secret key, and the pass key. So if you're using Sandbox, I've provided some guide on how you can create or get those 3 credentials. If you're using, it's a live pay bill, then that is simpler because you just go to the portal. So when you log into that portal, I don't know why it's checking. So if you go to this portal, if you are creating a Sandbox application, you are going to create here, just create the new app. But again, if you're using a live till, then you're not going to create a new app, rather you're going to go live. So if you click this button, this is the page that will be taken. Just enter the details, the short code, the organization name, the M-PESA username that was provided via email. Then you go to the next step. There is a phone number that you are going to provide. So there's an OTP that is going to be sent to that phone number that you registered with. Then after that, you will receive an email. So after that, it will be listed here first. So if you go back here to my apps, there's this drop down that is here. If you have a live pay bill, it will have another one for live here. So it won't be listed just here. Sometimes you might look for it here and you don't find it. So just click this drop down, then click live here, then the live application, the live pay bills and tills will be listed. So you have these two credentials that are here. You're going to copy the consumer key and the secret key. So from our documentation here, we needed 3. That is the consumer key, secret key, and the pass key. So we have this and this. So we need the pass key. So the pass key will be sent via email again. So the moment you go live, at some times back it was taking some time, but right now it's almost instant. Within 5 minutes you have that email. So the moment you go live, check your email, you're going to be provided with this pass key. So you'll now be having the consumer key, the secret key, and the pass key. Just take them and save them somewhere else. So because after getting those 3, then we should be done with this Daraja portal. So after there, confirming that you have the consumer key, the pass key, and the secret key, then you are done with the Daraja portal, and now you go to the code, the part where you now write the code. So that's the whole process of the application. It has taken long to explain, but it's just some few steps: gathering the documents, sending the email, getting the email, getting the credentials, then going live on Daraja and saving the credentials somewhere secure.
I think we have someone trying to interject. This is Wanjiro. Maybe she can.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Hamisi, a quick question about the passkey. I had gone live like 2-3 days ago, but I didn't get the email for the passkey. Then someone guided me to there's a place where you test the credentials. There's a page for it, and you go to the APIs and then you check the M-PESA one. You can test the credentials, and there's a passkey there. So, is there any difference when you use that passkey and the email you get?
Yeah, sure. So if you're having a sandbox app, so if you're testing on Sandbox, so I think it was very clear here. So if you're on Sandbox, then here is where you're going to get the passkey. So I think you're talking about this this page, yeah. So
Yes.
this one applies only for the Sandbox applications. I believe that is how it should work. Because if you come here, then I go to the APIs, then I come to simulate.
And then the test down there.
It should be somewhere here. I don't see it. It's actually supposed to be somewhere here.
Go down again. Note the documentation down. It should be there.
Yeah, that is the problem with this documentation. It's supposed to be somewhere here. I don't know. It's the size of my screen that is avoiding.
Probably.
Yeah,
But at times,
it should be somewhere here in
the
the page.
uh-huh.
So if just a minute, I open this. Yeah, this is the page that it should be here. Then you're going to select
Yeah.
the Sandbox app. Then you copy this passkey that is here. But that applies only for Sandbox. If you're live, then you should receive that email. That passkey that is there, it won't work unless it worked for you.
It did not work. I've been trying over and over again.
Yeah, that can't
It got
work
to some
because
point nikaachana nayo.
yeah, the passkey for a live pay bill or till will be sent via email. So you can just contact the API team, just find their emails, then you contact them, or you can try to go live again. If it will tell you that the application is already live, then contact them.
What is happening is I'm going live
Uh-huh.
and then I'm getting an email. But the email I'm getting, it's not coming with a passkey. It's just a random email.
What does it say actually? How random is it?
I think it
Okay.
just acknowledges that I've gone live,
Uh-huh.
and then it cites what I need, like the three things I need. That is the secret key, the consumer key, and the pass key. But now it does not show the pass key.
Okay, actually, you're supposed to receive two emails. That one you're supposed to ignore. I haven't talked about it because it gives you the exact details that are available. It tells you the endpoints. Niyo yenye iko na endpoints mingi.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is just listing the endpoints that are available.
So
There's
I'm
another
supposed to
one that
get a second email.
huh?
So I'm
You're
supposed
supposed
to
to get
get
the
a second
second
email.
email, but if it has delayed for more than 24 hours, then you won't get it. You're waiting for nothing. Huku Mombasa tunasema unangoja maembe chini ya mnazi. That won't happen because it's supposed to take 5 minutes or more, or 1 hour at most. So kama ijakuja at that moment, they know that there's a problem somewhere. Just contact the API team.
Okay, thank you. I'll try again today.
Okay,
So
you can just ikiwa imeshindikana kabisa, ikikataa kukuja, then just find me, nitaona vile naweza kusaidia.
Okay, thanks.
So you should point out that you won't get the API key from this portal if you're using a live pay bill. It should come from the email. So I think we are clear on that part. Okay. So this next session now is the code itself. I think I've taken a lot of time explaining the pay bill and the till application because it's one of the sessions that it actually has a lot of controversy. So the code, a lot of people have codes, snippets are available everywhere, but now they can only do it not past the sandboxing stuff. That is why I say that if you can get a live pay bill, then do it because you're going to face the real problems rather than sandbox. They provide you everything. So there's a lot of things that have already been abstracted. Utafanya mwenyewe, but ikija kwa live, then you have to do them by yourself. So when you come here now, the APIs that are available. So what is available for us? What can we do with the Daraja portal? One, we have the authorization API. This is one of the crucial one because each and every API that is past this is dependent on this one here. So it's an API that we have to call just to give us some authorization. So we're going to call this each and every time before any other API that you're going to call. Then we have the Lipa and M-PESA online SDK. Then we have the C2B. C2B is customer to business. This term is used most of the time in systems and models of businesses, customer paying a business. But you should notice the difference. We have, if you are integrating to a system whereby a click and a pata SDK push, that is another endpoint of its own. C2B is now, that is why I mostly call it offline payments, because yes, it has the ability to simulate the SDK push to do whatever SDK push can do. But again, this one now allows you to tell Safaricom that I have these endpoints, I have these URLs, any transaction that comes into this pay bill, whether from an online system or manually the normal way, just register this transaction here, then you're going to handle them in this part. So I won't get time to discuss about this. That is why I'm talking about it completely right now. So it's the whereby you register two URLs, the confirmation URL and the validation URL. So validation, most of the people skip it because not unless you don't want cases like a lot of reversal things, because maybe you're selling airtime. Like somebody goes to M-PESA, they click the pay bill, wanaweka phone number, then unawatumia airtime programmatically, that is automated. So utaki ku receive payments below 100 shillings. So you're going to write that logic on the validation URL that if this payment is less than 100 shillings, then don't go forward with it, just cancel it completely. That is why you don't find code for that a lot of times, because people just accept any kind of payment, whether ni shilingi moja, shilingi mbili, but you can limit that with the validation URL. Then the confirmation URLs now tells you that this transaction is complete. What should you do with it? So the confirmation URL, the validation, and just decide to register it and leave it alone. The confirmation is very important. The SDK push query, we're going to discuss about this when you talk about some UX stuff. When you're dealing with payments, when somebody is paying, you should consider their journey, the user journey, how the screen is supposed to look like. And this one is going to help us a lot, so that you can track each and every step that this user is in. The transaction status API, slightly different from this SDK push query. Then you have the account balance API. I rarely use this. And the reversal API, I also rarely use this one. But if you need to check the account balance for most of the time, the B2C, you can use this. And if you need to reverse a transaction, you can also use this other one. So in this session here, we're going to talk about the authorization API and the Lipa na M-PESA online. So authorization API, it's an API that generates a token. So a token is going to be used in the request headers of each and every request that we are going to send after this. So it's very, 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 very important. Very, very important. So for that, whatever language that you use, you can use the concept of, if you're using a framework, you can use the concept of making this a middleware that will run every time before any other request. If you're writing some core languages, you can decide to make this a function of its own that will be called each and every time before any other function. So you can decide to put it inside a class so that you can call that function before any other, you can call that method before any other method that comes after that. You can also use high order functions whereby this function runs first, then after it's complete, then the other function that is inside there will be running because the token will already be generated. The most important thing is just find a logic whereby you are going to run this function each and every time before any other function, because we need this token that is going to be generated here. We can generate it once, yes, but again, the token has some expiry time of seconds. And unless you aim to write code every 3 seconds, then you can do that. Just write the function each and every time, generate and pass it there. But the best way is to make sure that you have a program that runs this function each and every time. So this is how the request will be. Just create a base64 encoding of the consumer key that you have and the secret key. So the base64 encoding, you can get it in any language. So provided you know that I need to base64 encode the consumer key, colon, and a secret key. That will give you something that is needed to authorize the authorization API. So getting the token itself also needs another token. So you need to generate this token here so that this one now can be generated once. So you need to generate this token so that you can pass it to the authorization API so that you can now be given the main token itself. Then after generating this, you have to send a GET request. And in the GET request, it has no any other parameters apart from the headers that has the value of basic plus this encoded value that you've used here, the base64 encoding. And after that, you send the request to these endpoints. If you're using Sandbox, this is the endpoint. If you're using API, if you're using Live, this is the endpoint. So not the difference. They're just the same. The parameters are the same. The parameters here are the same. And also this path is still the same. The only thing that changes is the subdomain that is here. So this one is API and this one is Sandbox. So you can build fully on Sandbox. Then after you complete it, you can just change these APIs, these endpoints to API if you're now live. So there's a sample code to do that, Node.js, PHP, and Python. So this is the PHP part of it, and this is the Python part of it. So you can copy this code and you try it out. They're already tested, so I guarantee you they will work. So we are going we just have to go through them and see what actually they are doing. So one, I need the consumer key and the secret key. And these are the URLs. When you're copying this code, make sure to comment out one, depending on which one you're using. Then there's this function here that now gives us the encoded value. So it's the base64 encoding of the consumer key, the colon, and the secret key. So this is basically one long string. I just pass it here. I'm going to indicate the variables kando. So it's the consumer key, weke colon, and the pass key. No space between. Then, yeah, that is it. Then after that, you just set your headers, right? So authorization, basic, space, and then encoded credentials. That's the base64 encoding of the two. Then you just send the request, and the request will give you back data. And one of the things that will be included in that data is the access token. So if you're using a middleware, just save this one so that it can be received on the next function. If you are using a function, higher order function, or a function that runs before any other function, then you just return the access token so that you can pass it as the header of the next request. So
It is.
yes.
Ulikuwa nataka niulize hiyo token tunaweza save aje globally ndio next maybe the next request yenye inakuja within that 30 minutes frame.
Hiyo ndio nimekuwa nikiongelelea. I've been saying like we need to generate this. You have to find a logic that generates this token each and every time before any other request. So if you're using a framework, Laravel, no Express, whatever, that provides the concept of middlewares, whereby you can run a function before any other function. So you can make this function run as a middleware. So in a run before any other one. But again, sasa, kama unatumia any other thing, so you can decide to write this function separately, and it returns, just like here, it returns this value, this access token. So make sure to run this function each and every time before the function that you want to run. So this function will return for you the token. So like nikiangalia kuja hapa kwa PHP, kitu itafanya, it will just return this thing. So where is it here? Yeah, it returns the access token. So this function that you've written here returns the access token. So if you call the get access token function, it will give you the token itself. Then you can now pass it to that next function.
Oh yeah, okay. I understand that one. So what I was talking about is kwa hiyo hiyo token ina work for about 30 minutes.
No, it's 3 seconds, at most 5 seconds. It takes, I think it's at most 5 seconds. I've never tested how long it stays. But even if it's 30 minutes, are you going to generate it every 30 minutes?
Now I wanted maybe a code naweza tumia design itakuwa the same token, so every time tutakuwa tuna request, but itatumika tu hiyo code, hiyo nini moja, token moja for at least 29 minutes, then tena inakuwa regenerated.
No problem. If you can use some is it catching, or so I use Redis. If you can use Redis, something like Redis, something that stores some value in memory for certain time. So come you've done your research and you know that it stays for 30 minutes. So once you generate it once, just save it in memory. So as I save for any caching library that you have, that stays for 30 minutes. So one, check if it's available on memory. Kama inapatikana, don't send the request. But kama ipatikani, it's about logic. How you write it doesn't matter. But just know that it should be there before any other request.
Oh yeah. Hii iko sawa.
Poa.
Hata mimi niko na swali. Ukiweka kama middleware hiyo authorization token. Saa zingine when you make the API call, response body, okay, it gives you a status code of 200, okay, but the response body for the access token haiko. One question. Alafu another question, saa zingine it generates the access token.
Yes.
And you can't actually go to the SDK push because inasema headers have already been set. So how do you go about solving that bug? Yeah.
Okay, so the access token should not be returned back to the client, because headers have already been set. That means that you're sending something back to the client twice. Like umetumia res.json if you're using Node.js, so umetumia res.json once kwa this one, then you want to use it again to the next function. So this one just returns. Returning means that kuregesha kwa Kiswahili, like inipe, haimaanishi it is sending back to the client, hapana. Return means that stop the execution of this function and give me back this value. So don't make a mistake of sending back the client to sending back the access token to the client. Only use that when you're testing, like unataka kuona kama imekuwa generated. But kama una implement, this token is just to be used in the next function, not to be returned back to the client. Okay, actually kuna complete code iko hapa chini, tutaipitia pia. Sawa. Then after generating this token, now we have the SDK push API. So Lipa na M-PESA Online is designed a lot of stuff that is here. So the transaction to be completed, a prompt that is an SDK push will be sent to the customer to validate the transaction entering the M-PESA PIN. So the request structure, how we are going to generate that one, we need some stuff. One, you need the timestamp. So here is how we generate it for Node.js. You can use moment, written along code here, because you don't need to have a lot of dependencies of something that you can just write it in some lines. So have the timestamp that is provided with this short code, but you can decide to use moment to generate the current timestamp. PHP, the timestamp is this one line. Python, the same, just get the timestamp from the datetime module. Then after getting the timestamp, we have a password that is supposed to be generated. So this password is now to be passed as a request body. Katika hizo body yenye unatuma kwa SDK push kuna hii password. So how to generate this password is the base64 encoding of the shortcode, the passkey, and the timestamp. So there's a sample for Node.js, Python, and PHP here also available. Then after that, you send a request, a post request to this endpoint. If it's live, you just use API here. Just replace this. The body that you're supposed to send back is this one here. So this is the main thing that we have to know, whatever each and every parameter is doing. So the business shortcode is the pay bill number that you applied for. So for Sandbox, they provide that, but if you're live, there's a pay bill number that you have. Now, for till numbers, the SMS will include two things: the store number and the till number itself. So for the business shortcode, use the store number here. If you enter ukiweka the till number, it won't work on this business shortcode. So the business shortcode for pay bills is the pay bill number. Business shortcode for tills is the store number. The password is the password that you generated from this function. The timestamp is the one that you generated from the timestamp. The transaction type, there are only two are provided. Here they are. So if you're using a pay bill, it should be customer pay bill online. You notice the casing here. It's is it Pascal or Camel? I'm not sure. So you have to start every letter with a capital letter. So you should notice this. So if it's a pay bill, use this. If it's a till number, it's customer buy goods online. For this here, the amount that is provided, the party A is the phone number that is paying. Notice the format, it should start with +254. And again, back to UI UX, you don't have to tell your clients to enter this number. Normally, if you ask me phone number yako ni gani, I'll tell you 0768. So hii mambo ya kunilazimisha na +254, don't think it's a good practice. So just find a logic of getting the 07 from the client, then just remove the 0 at the 254 here, pass it here. The party B If you're using a pay bill, is the same as the short code. If you're using a till number, now the difference comes here. So if you're using a till number, this will be the store number, this will be the till number itself. But kama unatumia pay bill, both of them are the same. I really don't know why they had to repeat these two. I'm yet to know the reason really, but the party A and the phone number are equally the same. You can just decide to interchange them and see which one works. The callback URL, something very important. We are going to discuss it later. The account reference. If you're doing online payments, this account reference is the same one that you're going to enter as an account number in the manual payments. The transaction description, I rarely use this. You can just put anything here. But again, if it's there, just do a background check on what it does and where you can use it. So these are just some explanation of those things that I've explained. Then after that, the request needs now the headers. So remember, in the headers for generating the token, we passed basic plus the token that we generated for that. Now this token will be the token that is from this function. So you can notice this function generate token that was up there. So anytime before you call the STK push, you have to generate this token. I said this function returns to you this. If you're using JavaScript, it will return to you for you a promise. So just you have to wait it. But PHP and Python, I think it works fine. This code won't be executed before this. So this will wait to give you the token, then pass the token here. Python the same. This will wait to give you the token, then pass the token here. So unaweza andika hii function mahali, but remember to call it each and every time before you call this other one, so that you can pass this token here, the return value of this function. Now the complete code, I think this one now will answer most of your question. Let me just explain Node.js. So this is a function that sends an STK push. So we have this function that here, the first thing that we are doing is generating the token. So if you're using Node.js, you can pass it as a middleware, get the function there. But if the middleware issue is bringing you a problem, then just create the function somewhere and make sure to wait for it before anything else, get the token, return the token from that function. It should work the same. So but make sure before you call anything, get the token. Then we have the timestamp normally as that one, the STK password generated up there, the URLs, choose one between API and Sandbox. Set your headers right. The request body should be this. So the shortcode, the password, the timestamp, and everything that I've explained up there. Then send the request. So the URL is that, the body is this, and the headers are these. So the main part is these headers that should be having the bearer and token authorization. So if the code is right, the logic is right, it should work. So it will give you a response back. That is the problem. Here's where the problems start, because the STK push is ready. Remember, this API or this call that we made to Safaricom is only and only responsible for sending the STK push to the client. Doesn't deal with anything with how the transaction will be handled by that client again. So we have two options. Actually, we have one option, but depending on how you want to treat your clients, we can decide to wait for that transaction on the callback. So this callback that is here, let's discuss on how we can handle it first. So that callback that you're going to provide there, you might receive an error. So make sure it's okay. It's not a type. So make sure the format is okay. So if you're receiving any error on the STK push and it's directing you that there's a bad request, just check on the URL. Maybe there's a typo. Just check on one of the body parameters. Maybe there's a typo also. Confirm that STK password is generated okay, and make sure the token is passed as the validation. So if these things are just fine, then the STK push should be sent. But unless you had another issue with the STK push, then but the thing is, an error on STK push is an error on your end. Never blame Safaricom, because I've used it for like 2.5 years now. the service is never down in part of, I don't know, the API is not responding or what. Maybe the callbacks fail at times, but the API responding, never have I ever experienced such. So if you get an error with the SDK push, go back to your code. Stop blaming the big fishes out there. So the callback URL that you pass, a valid callback URL should be of this format. One, it should have the security and should have that and the correct path to your endpoint. So remember, this one cannot be sent to localhost because it's a request that comes in later. So if you provide localhost, it will work. Actually, it will work. But the request will be sent to the M-PESA's computer because that is it's their localhost. So they're going to send the call back to their own machine. So it won't reach you. So that will be now a problem to your end because you're handling something that is not even reaching you. So if you have a problem with that, you want to develop on Sandbox or rather you are doing development, you can use this service ngrok to give you a live tunnel to your localhost. So it's like you are temporarily deploying your application to give you even a secure path. So unachukua hiyo unabandika pale, then it will work for you. So if everything is right, this is the data that you expect to be sent back. In your data utapokea. Itakuwa hivi. You read this documentation later. I'll be rushing because of time right now, but I will answer to your questions. So this is the data that you're going to receive once everything is okay, the callback is okay. So how to debug this stuff when you are not receiving this? Start complaining, oh, callbacks are failing. Again, in the period of 2 years that I've used M-PESA, if callbacks failed, they failed not more than 2 times. So if yours is failing every second you send, then you keep blaming Safaricom callbacks are failing. Go back to your code again. Your code is having an issue. So you can just decide to try it out. Just take the exact URL that you provided there. Go to any client that you use, either it's Postman, Thunder client. Just write any dummy data there, then send it. If you receive it on your console, then there is an issue with Safaricom. But if you don't receive your own request that you've sent to your own callback URL, then now you are the problem. So go back to confirm the path is okay. So you can just mock up this. There's a tuma to any data back to that endpoint using any client. Then if you're receiving it, everything is fine. If you don't receive it, then meaning that there's an issue with the path that you've provided. So if the user has paid, this is the body that you're going to receive. So you notice there's this callback metadata. If the user has not paid, the callback metadata won't be there. And the result description will be something else other than 0. So if you receive results code of 0, that means that the transaction was successful, they entered a right PIN, and the payment has been processed. But if you receive the one that is having a result code of something else other than the 0, that means that there's something that happened and will be given in the results description. But this one again will come later on the callback. So you cannot use this to tell the user that is on a blank screen that your payment has failed. Here's when now we go back to this part of the SDK push query. So if you're having any question concerning the callback URL, you can just ask now before I proceed.
Yes, Clinton, can unmute and talk.
Hello. I didn't have a question rather than what to add on Amos's about, and it's not about the callback URL, it's about the access token on how you get it. I think I had an idea that you can generate when after you've generated the token on one function, you can set a timeout, maybe of 5 seconds, and then it will be called in the payment function. So like after you generate the token for the 5 seconds timeout, and then the payment function is called, so it gets the token. It never misses. So I actually have a gist for that. GitHub gist for that. It's an Express.js, so you can allow me to share the link to it. It will be fine. That's all.
Yes, yeah, thanks, Clinton. So the callback sometimes has issues, so you should be very clear on that part. Now, back to this user who is in a blank screen. Yes, the STK push has been sent. They have paid, but now what tells you that they have really paid, so that you can either redirect them to a failure page or a success page? That is now the part that most of the people fail in that, because yes, the callback has been handled, you got your data, you saved it to your database, but now there's this user here that you need to handle. You need to give them a good experience. So to demonstrate this, I think it will be clear enough if I demonstrate on how it should actually work. I don't know if this will be the best. Okay, so this is the, so if maybe, let me just, this one won't help us. It does the same thing, but it calls to APIs. So I hope you guys can see whatever is happening. Now that experience is what I'm talking about. Understanding, or rather, this one. Let me just use this. This one is calling 3 endpoints. This one will call only 2. So I need us to actually look at the network tab and see whatever is happening here. So if the user enters the phone number and every detail that you need, so if I click this and this button, the request that will be sent is to send the STK push. That's the first request. So this is the request that has been sent first. So a push has been sent to your phone. Now you can notice some other requests that are being sent at some intervals. You come now, the network, the activities that are going on there. So when I cancel on my end, the request will end and they will tell me that the request has been canceled by the user. So these are two different APIs that are provided by Safaricom. The first one is this Lipa na M-PESA. So this one sends the push. After the push has been sent, this one now checks for the status. So you have to find a logic. In your backend, just write the two separate endpoints. Now on your front end, the logic will be send this first request, get the response for it. If the push has been sent, now start querying, start pulling, taking for that. So if this STK push tells you that the request is still being processed, then that means that you call it again at intervals until something happens, until they pay or until they just interact with that STK push, because you redirecting them to another page and the push is still on their phone, assuming that they will pay. We have a lot of use cases that you have to handle, a lot of edge cases, that is. So that is the UX that you're supposed to provide for your client. Send the STK push first, then try to poll, try to actually check the status each and every time until something happens. If the status is still 500, that means that they're still on process, they have not done anything, then just keep on polling at intervals of 2 seconds. So I think I've not written that in this, but if you go to my GitHub, if you go to this endpoint, I think I have that endpoint provided here. Nifungue tu nione kaiko hapa. Yeah, the STK push query is here. So it takes the checkout request ID, and what it does, it sends the request to this endpoint, providing this body, and the token is also passed here. So remember, if you're using the function, you have to call this function, the function to generate the token here, and you pass it on this request also. So it will give you back the data. So this is the backend. Backend part of it is as simple as it is. The main part is on the front end side. So I think I also have another repo for this one here, this project. Yeah, for this project also it does the same thing. So I have the front end of it. You can just check. I think it's public. Called event ticketing system. If you come to the client here, you'll see how it actually works. So where the user pays. Yeah. So here it is. So calling this STK push query. So I'm setting account to 0. This one will help. I will be incrementing this each and every time I send the request to the STK push query to check for the transaction. So what it does, this is a function set interval. So you can implement this in whatever language that you use. So provided it's a function that will run each and every time after some time. So it takes a second argument that it runs after every 2 seconds. So this function that is inside here will run after every 2 seconds. And every time it runs, I don't want it to run forever. That is why I've set this request, this count that is here. So that if it runs 15 times, meaning that it has taken, that is 2 seconds times 15, 30 seconds, then this user has no intent of interacting with that push, or rather is not aware, is not near that phone. So I'll just cancel this, just call this timeout. I just cancel it and tell them that it took too long to pay. So that's the first case that I'll handle in this function, that if the request count, so if it has run more than 15 times, then I'll clear this timer. You'll just check you just set your states. Rather, if you can change, you're changing your UI, you can change your UI and whatever, then just tell them that it took too long to pay. Otherwise, if it has not taken 15 seconds, this is what will handle. So you're sending the request here, passing out the checkout request ID. So remember, this function takes in the checkout request ID and it is called immediately after this one is successful. Sending the push, the function that sends the push. Yeah, this function that sends the push. So if you send the push, you're going to get the response, and the response will have the checkout request ID, and immediately you start calling this one here. So you provide the checkout request ID on this. So this part here will now be handling that querying. So after every 2 seconds, you call this function, it will check. If the response is 0, meaning that they paid. So if they pay, handle the case where the user has paid. If you're redirecting to a success page, do it here. If the response code is this 500.001. This one, meaning that it is still on process. So do nothing here actually. Just consoling.log here, but you're supposed to do nothing. Do nothing inside here. Just let it run again and again and again. But if it is not this case and it's not this case, meaning it's not complete and it's not on progress, then it has failed. They've done something with it, but it has not been completed. So you can handle here, clear the timer. Then the response will give you a data and the description, what made it to fail. Then you can handle now that case of a failure in the transaction in this one here. So on the front end side, it's also 2 requests. Call the STK push. Then after that, it will provide you the checkout request ID. Call the STK query in intervals of seconds so that you can change the UI appropriately. So the implementation involves both the front end and the back end part of it. The calls that you're sending to Safaricom, do it on the back end. Now the calls that are coming from the front end will be going to your back end. I think that's
Again,
clear. Yes, hello? Yeah, so that is...
Hello.
Yes, Amos.
Riz.
Yes.
Oh, I think I have a problem with Node.js. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So Node.js nikitumia kwa application, so like some weeks nilikuwa na app yenye ilikuwa ina run live, but sijui ni problem ya Axios inaitwa aje ama nini. So after some time ikituma request kwa Safaricom inaanza kukuwa na error, as in haitumi, inanipatia timeout ya kama 10,000 ms, then inakata, but napata tena imetuma STK push kwa user, inakuja inapata hiyo nini, hiyo payment haikuwa successful huku kwangu. So sijui inakuanga shida nini, but venye nilimove kwa Golang hakukuwa na shida, na back then nikiwa PHP hakukuwa na that problem. Sijui sasa kama ni shida ya Node ama ni nini, sijui kama kuna mtu mwingine
So I think it's how you write your logic. The problem is, again, I don't know the difference between, because if you're coming from PHP background, this stuff of blocking and unblocking code is the problem with Node.js. That is why you find me using this, because you expect that this code will run. You just assume that this code to generate the token, where is it? You assume that this code to generate the code token will run, but again, it returns a promise. So it tells you, it goes to the next function and it has returned nothing. So you just have to find a way to wait for that function to run. PHP, nafikiri, it's already like that. Like the next function won't run unless the first one completes. But in JavaScript, we have the issue of the event loop. It's just registered there, inaendelea na mambo yake, then ikiisha inarudi. So imefika mbele, you're using a token that is yet to be generated. So that is the main issue with Node.js. You have to handle those promises well. If you're going to use async await, well and good. If you're going to use .then and .catch, also well and good. But make sure your code does not go to the next function before generating the token. So make sure you wait for that function. So offline payments, I'll be completing this documentation on the same, but just to understand on what it does, you just register the two URLs, the validation and the confirmation. Then you write your logic. Then you write your logic on the validation URL and on the confirmation URL. So with that, it's simpler, because with the callback that you're receiving from the STK push, that one gives you two types of callbacks, like kama amelipa ama jalipa, regardless, it just sends a callback back. But for the offline C2B, the confirmation URL, it only registers transactions that are successful. So that one you have not to check anything. So but for hii STK push, callback ikuja, you just have to check first whether it's successful or not. So you can notice the differences of the callbacks that are coming. If it's successful, this is what is going to be sent. So first, check the results code. If it's 0, then handle it if you're saving the database or not. But if it is not 0, then don't save it, because it's not complete. If you can save it in some other tables or other documents that it's an incomplete transaction, then well and good. So be very careful when you're handling callbacks for STK push, because they will be sent regardless of whether the transaction is successful or not. So first check. Another common problem that I've seen in recent days is with Fuliza. It's an issue. So many of the snippets that you find online, many of the tutorials that you find, including mine that I made, I think I have to redo that one, because there's an issue with this. When you handle this, it's an array of objects. So if you handle, like, you expect that the amount and the M-PESA receipt, this one will be in the array index of 1, and this one will be index of 0. This one will be index of. So if you are handling this data depending on the indexes, then this balance is not available in Fuliza. So meaning that this phone number, normally the phone number will be on the index of this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The phone number will be in the index of 4, but when it's a Fuliza transaction, it will be in the index of 3. So it will get undefined, or it will get an invalid data. So the best thing to do it is just try to get the objects themselves by the name. So find this object that the name is amount, get it. So whatever in the index where it will be, you'll get the right one. So if you have been having cases like other callbacks are being received, others are not being received, that should be the case. Just do your research and you'll understand that those callbacks that are failing are Fuliza callbacks because you've been handling the callback in a wrong way.
Riz, we have some questions here. We have like three guys. I'll start with Langat, then Sam, then Kevin. I think they wanted to interject kindly.
Okay, thanks for the chance. Mi nilikuwa na swali moja tu. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so mi niko na hii code mzima ya Node.js about integration na M-PESA. Sasa nilikuwa na encounter some problems, especially kwa yenye Tanui amesema about the axials. Sijui kama like axials, sijui ni common problem ama ni gani, ama shida ni gani. Juu mi pia nilikuwa na encounter some problems nikijaribu kufanya hizo ma requests. Secondly ni about sijui kama utarudia about the callback URL. To mi nilikuwa natumia Ngrok kuirun live. Unaweza nisaidia vipi ama inatoka kwa Safaricom ama ni the moment the website is live ndio unapata hiyo callback URL?
Oh yeah, now that question inatoka kwa Safaricom ama no? The callback URL, it's you who defines it. Like kama ni endpoint unaandika mwenyewe. No. So that is why if you don't receive the callback, you have the ability to send data to that endpoint and see whether it's being reached. Which that is also another security issue. So that is why in the part of securing these, if you are live, there's a list of when I come to this, there's a list of endpoints that are provided with Safaricom that the request will come from. So don't just assume any request that is coming to your callback is from Safaricom. No. Even you yourself, if you have a callback that is live somewhere, just try to copy this. Just try to copy this body as it is, then send it to that callback URL. It will be received and it will be handled normally. So it's your own security handling. So number one, the very first thing, make sure the callback URL is a secret. Don't go to a tutorial and the guy in the tutorial ameita yake /callback, wewe na unaenda unaita yako /callback. Because if they send that data there, you'll handle a data that is fake. So the first thing in security that you're securing your callback, make sure it's the callback, the endpoint is a secret and to you and you alone. The second thing, you can decide to whitelist. So like I have some IPs that are here. So these are the IPs that Safaricom has provided that these requests will come from. So like itakuja from these ones here. So you can decide to also check whether the request is coming from these endpoints or these IP addresses. I was telling this to some guys back at Only Devs, and there's one of the guys in cybersecurity told me that you can manipulate these IP addresses that are coming. Again, I said you can't be 100% secure, so that is the second. So you can decide to have 3-factor authentication. So one, make your URL secret. Number two, make sure you whitelist these addresses. Number three, you can decide now to generate your own token, like any random value una save kwa database yako on this request that you're sending to STK push. So kabla usend STK push, una generate a token, then you're passing that token to this URL. You can pass parameters there. Ukiweka the colon, the question mark, anything else that you pass after that can be received back on the callback URL. So unaweza pass your token hapo. Then when you receive the callback, validate that token, then you handle the request. Don't just assume the token is valid. No. Anybody can send that callback URL, provided they know this is the endpoint. They can send it to your URL at any time.
Okay, thank you. So essentially like when do unajicreate hii callback URL ama what do you mean?
Yeah, ni wewe ndo unajicreate callback URL.
Si unajua ni Ngrok ndio inafanya like your app ikuwe live, sio?
Oh, Ngrok itakupea hii hapa. Itakupea unaona hii, are you seeing this endpoint that iko hapa?
Yeah, that's why nakwambia.
Itakupea paka hapa, unaona?
Yeah, ndio hiyo sasa. Sijui kama naweza share screen yangu.
Just a minute, I explain, then you tell me if it's the same case that you're having. The Jirok will give you this. So if you're passing this directly to that callback URL, that means that there is no function that is handling it. Like here your base, it is the base, the main folder yenye iko kwa hiyo application yako. So kama unatumia PHP, unafaa provide the path. Sasa after Jirok imekupea hii hapa, this one here, you now have to provide the path to the function that will handle it.
Okay, sawa. I now get you. So like unajua tunatumiaga ngrok, so inamaanisha nikisha host my website hapa ndio nitaweka hiyo URL, ndio?
Yeah, hii URL kama unatumia ngrok for development, ngrok itakupea path, sawa? So ukienda live, your path na change peke yake.
Nitapata ingine, thank you.
This one remains.
True. Okay, so unaweza sema tu about hiyo Axios basi.
Axios, I think it's out of my reach because sielewa because you can just try to use fetch if Axios is a problem.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Hata fetch iko na shida, so the only thing yenye naweza nika advise move API yako kwa language nyingine kama PHP ama Python ama Golang.
Sorry nani? Amos?
Kama iko na shida hapo.
Amos, there's no coincidence of fetch and Axios having the same problem. The problem is your code.
Yes.
And again, never assume. Axios is being maintained, and the guys who are maintaining Axios will not want that error to continue. So if there's a problem, then you can decide to go to if it's an open source, enda kwa GitHub yao uone kama that issue has been raised. Kama kuna, just raise it. But it can't be that Axios is having a problem at the same time Fetch is having a problem.
Okay, I think the problem is si Safaricom wana change IP zao after some few because ni server kadhaa ndio inatumika, ndio? So I think ile time yenye wamechange na nini Axios wao imecatch hiyo IP, ile time yenye inaenda kusend inapata iko available at that time. So
what you can do, you can just try this snippet that I provided here, the complete STK push, then try it with thousands of requests. Let's see if it will fail, because with me, I've received those cases like I'm having an issue with Axios, but again, after some time, they tell me, oh, ni issue yangu, ni kuna kitu ulikuwa sijaeka. So like, that is the thing that is missing somewhere. I don't believe that Axios can be having such a problem that has stayed for long and has not been fixed. And the impossible thing that I can't also believe is Fetch having the same problem as Axios. So shifting from Node.js is not an option. Sorry for that, Lakini. Because you won't be running. And so if Golang gives you a problem again, you'll run away, go somewhere else. Gives you a problem, go to somewhere else. So handling offline payments, I think this is straightforward. So within like 3 to 4 days, I'm done with this. So you can go back here and try to check, because time is not on our side at the moment. And also the B2C, I'll also update it here. Then if we can have another session, it will be fine. But if we don't get the time for that, then I think this documentation will be of great help for you guys. Yeah. So that's the security part, offline payments. We have skipped this for now, but it's the straightforward. You just have to register your URLs, then handle the payments. The B2C has a lot to be discussed here, including security also. It's a very big threat, something that is being targeted by a lot of people. So if you're handling B2C, you should be very, very careful. Then the common problems that you guys are facing, I think we have shared some of them, and those that we can solve, we have tried to solve them. Those that are out of our reach, I think we can get time and research about them. Yeah. So think I'm done. So if you have any questions, you can ask. If you have questions that are too personal, you can find me on this email. And this is my phone number. Also, I have a very beautiful portfolio here. Don't be worried about the XYZ. Just prefer it that way. Then, yeah, so thanks to Spacia Tech for providing this platform. Only Devs provided the very first platform. I attended a hackathon back in August, I think. And it was my joy to realize that we were competing on integrating M-PESA, and the groups that we were competing with were using my YouTube tutorial to beat me. So I was like, I'm not kind of, but it was a joy to me knowing that I am helping other developers out there with the little that I know. Thanks also to Spacia Tech, Only Devs. You can follow these guys. It's a very great community around here in Mombasa. I met Fred January this year at Diani, a very great guy, and he has really believed in me. And when we are talking about this session, I saw a first post by Spacia Tech. I didn't tell him, but I knew exactly that is the one that has written it, because with the message that was inside there should be somebody that knows me personally. Then Lawrence Juma, thank you for organizing everything here. So Lawrence also, I requested for this session, and he was very kind to tell me that actually he's one of the people that has motivated me to write that documentation, because he told me after that session you need to write a blog about it. So that is why he said, why should I just write a blog, and let me just rewrite the whole documentation. So he has really helped me to get that. I have been wanting to write that documentation for a very long time, but didn't get that motivation and that time to do it. But thanks to him, it's here.
Yeah, thank you, Zwan, for the session. It was very informative. For those requesting for the recording, I think I'll share it to our YouTube channel, that is at Spacia Tech, to get recording on it, and also the documentation that Rizwan is having on the same. Then I've also shared a form whereby if you think you can also share some knowledge with us on the same, on any tech space part of it. We also welcome those who are able to share their knowledge too. Then on the other hand, as well, we are also having this session to talk about the space part of it. Space Tech is also having a Space Tech is also developing a program for the mentorship platform, that is one-on-one mentorship on different tech space. So you can also join the whitelist. Holy shit. Maybe I'll share the link. I've shared the link of our YouTube channel. Then I'll also share a link to a mentorship platform that Space Tech is also building up to to enable us who are into the tech space, want to get a mentorship for one-on-one, maybe with the guys in Africa, mostly in Africa and across the world too. So if you get any question, you're welcome on the space. Or any comment, you can just raise your hand and we shall give you a mic. Yeah, yes, Amos.
So